So, Sinners is now currently, according to reports, the highest grossing original IP this decade. So, 2020s and on. So far, it is the highest, and apparently it's not even close. I think the next biggest one is like Elemental or something like that. But what was interesting about that particular tidbit was at the end of some of the articles that I saw that talked about it, at the end of one particular article, there was this like weird sign off closing statement where it was basically like, hey, Hollywood is still showing that it's got some bite. And I couldn't help but laugh a little bit at that because it's like, are they? Sinners is an incredible experience. I mean that wholeheartedly. There may be some people who don't like the movie. There may be some people who just think it's okay. To me, it's excellent. It's top tier. It's one of my favorite movies that I've seen in a long time, actually. I like everything about it, from the cinematography to the style to the music. There's just so much that really made me appreciate that movie going experience. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because we're so used to seeing these superhero movies or the big budget craziness. I don't know. I think about something like Mission Impossible or even Top Gun, where I had really fun, great experiences with those. But then I think about stuff like Thor: Love and Thunder and Doctor Strange and Justice League and some of these other ones in the last couple of years, where I kind of go, I don't know. It almost felt like a chore. And that's not to say that I or anybody else has to go to see any of these movies. You can wait. But there was just something about Sinners specifically that made me go, oh, this is the kind of theater experience that I feel I've been lacking or missing. But I wouldn't necessarily chalk that up to Hollywood. I don't even think Hollywood, if we really were to get down and maybe open the curtain a little bit, I don't think Hollywood truly believed in Sinners. And I mean that wholeheartedly. And there's evidence all over the place that they didn't truly believe in it. Sure, they might have believed in Michael B. Jordan. Sure, they might have believed in Ryan Coogler. They've done very well together. But there was almost this weird thought process, I think, where it seemed like because it's not Marvel, like Black Panther or something like that, it would kind of fade a little bit more into the distance and be a good movie and be a recognized movie, but not have the kind of success that it had. And then it did. And it did mainly because of the crazy word of mouth. I mean, the word of mouth for Sinners during that 2-week period was incredible. And I'm not talking to critics, because let's be honest, a lot of us don't even really take critics seriously anymore. You might want to see what the overall justification is, but ultimately we're going to go look at our peers and we're going to go look at people, regular people who are just going to see it. But it was perfect. From the regular people, from the regular audience goer, the word of mouth. I remember walking out of the theater of Sinners, and people were literally stopping their cars. And literal story, like true story. People were literally stopping their cars to ask the people who had just come out of Sinners, how was Sinners? Like, that was an actual thing that was happening. And, you know, people are giving their praise and saying how good it is and everything like that. That's why when you see that second weekend, it damn near matched the first weekend. Not too many Hollywood movies, even the most successful of the IPs, can say that right now. I've seen people talk about the cult following that Ryan Coogler has, and that maybe that was the thing that kind of helped push this movie over the top, but I don't know if I would go that far. I don't think that's the correct term for this particular situation. I think buzz-driven campaign is probably the biggest, where the buzz was just so strong for Sinners. And I think the buzz was so strong for Sinners because of the fact that it had almost perfect auteur branding. And the auteur branding being, we know who Ryan Coogler is, we know his catalog, and we know he's going to give us something that's absolutely awesome. especially with the fact that he's doing it with Michael B. Jordan. And when those two are paired up, they usually give us something awesome. But it makes me wonder about IPs in general when it comes to Hollywood, because I think about what Sinners did, and it makes you kind of wonder if they can learn the lesson of just how strong a good original IP can truly be. And I don't think they can. And I think a lot of it boils down to the fact that original IPs aren't truly marketed correctly. A lot of times they're not even marketed at all, and if so, they're looked at as something to kind of throw out there in the middle while we're waiting for our next big IP, our next big franchise player, if you will. I think of it like the NBA. How many times do we see something? I feel like we see it every year. How many times do we see a player that nobody's ever really heard of outside of maybe the fan base itself of that team? And they come off like, I don't know, number 8, 9, 10th guy on the bench. And boom, all of a sudden it's like, they were that good? How could that be? Surely not. But then you look at the NBA as a whole and it goes, well, if you're not a top guy, then you're not necessarily getting the same reps. You're not necessarily getting the same minutes. And so, of course, the general audience is not going to know who you are. They're not going to know your play style. They're not even going to get a chance to see you, because that's not the way the league works. The league is about the stars, and they decide who the stars are based off your level of play and how much buzz you can generate. Movies are the same way. They decide who the major players are based off of what the previous buzz may have been, based off of the popularity, the engagement, the clicks, whatever gets people talking. Sometimes they ruin those franchises. Sometimes they don't. But nevertheless, every single time, those franchises take marquee. The Star Wars, the Marvel, the DC, those are marquee. Those are things that will always have the top spot. The Godzilla, the Star Trek, those are marquee. Those are just something that will always have it. Avatar. I mean, the list goes on and on of the marquee franchises. Sometimes it's the actual name brand that matters even more so. Your Toy Stories, your Frozens, things like that. Where it's like, yeah, it's part of a specific brand that Disney may have had, but it's its own brand by itself as well. So it's kind of hard for original IPs to be able to even compete with that. And so it's weird that like that last sentence, I guess that last sentence just hit me, because it's like Hollywood still has its bite. Really? They haven't shown it. I don't think they even care to show it. And so again, I don't know if they're gonna learn that lesson about what you can truly do with a great marketing campaign, with a great push. And I don't think Sinners is gonna be the thing that they learn the lesson from. And the reason why I don't think Sinners is gonna be that is because Ryan Coogler is trusted. Now, that's not to say that you should just throw anybody's project into the ring. I'm not saying that. But Ryan Coogler had a bit of trust where he's allowed to do that, and because of the auteur branding, we recognize that at the very least he's gonna get some people. Christopher Nolan is the same way. Martin Scorsese is the same way. Tim Burton. People like that, people with those names. Greta Gerwig, as of late. People with those names, they're always going to get that top billing. But I'm not so sure that these studios are gonna be willing to take a movie off the bench. One that could actually be really cool, one that doesn't necessarily have to go to streaming to become a cult classic, could actually get the word of mouth that something like Sinners could get. I'm not so sure these studios are willing to take the chance. Even though they probably should, and it would probably cost them less money in the long run. Yeah.